Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic for you today. Let's do it. When was a time you thought you were going to die, but didn't? Serious and a little not safe for work. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. My friends dragged me up to the mountains without my knowledge. I was told we were just going for a drive until we were halfway there. So I'm already at the mountain, and I'm like, I guess I'll just roll with it. They had me build the fire since I'm the only one that's any good at building fires. Long story short, the smoke inhalation caused me to have extreme asthma without an inhaler. Everyone refused to take me to the hospital the entire day. I ended up coughing so forcefully and so often that I ended up with a pneumostatinium, a hole in the lung causing air to leak into the mediastatum. Needless to say, I cut off all ties with them. I was out swimming with some friends, and since I've been swimming my entire life, I wasn't worried about swimming far out and diving by myself. So, there I was, 150 meters away from the nearest person, diving in the sea. All of a sudden, a sharp pain hits me in the leg, and the shock causes me to breathe out. There I am, alone, a couple of meters under the surface, thinking I'm dead if I don't calm down. With that in mind, I force the pain away and start using the rest of my body to swim up with. I reach the surface and swim to shore. The whole thing lasted just a couple of seconds, but it really didn't feel like it at the time. If it hadn't been swimming my whole life, I could have easily died that time. Now, it wasn't the closest I've been to dying, but it felt the closest. I don't know if that counts. Almost 2 years ago, my now ex-wife got really mad at me. Way more than normal. It was so bad I asked her to stop the car and let me out. She stopped, I opened the door, put my feet on the ground, and she floored the car. The rear wheel ran over my arm, neck, and shoulders. Cracked skull, small brain bleeding, loss of mass in the frontal lobe, disconnected my brain from my nose. What I can't get over is the headlights coming back out at me. She told the police the car door just opened. When I accidentally ate food containing walnuts, first time I experienced an anaphylactic shock. I started to feel a bit weird after lunch at work. I figured it must be an allergic reaction, but it had never been more severe than a bit of throat itching and rashes before. So I walked to the drugstore to buy some antihistamine. Had to stand and wait in line to pay. That's when I felt it started to be tough standing up, so I opened the pack of pills and took a few and then just exited the store and started to walk to the hospital, which thank God is really close by. Had to climb a huge staircase to get up to the entrance. The workout made my blood pumping and I got worse really fast. Stumbled into the hospital barely able to stand or speak and got the attention of some who put me in a wheelchair and rolled me to emergency. From there I don't remember much except I was suddenly lying on a hospital bed with people all around asking me questions about what I've taken. They believed I was on drugs. Tried to explain that I had eaten nuts and was allergic. A doctor tried to measure my blood pressure but couldn't. Apparently I didn't have any. At that point my vision began to turn into white noise and I could just cry out, "Help!" That's when I got some sort of shot, an IV, and it quickly got better. Scared as hell for nuts since that day. It's pretty wild how fast an allergic reaction can set in, or sometimes a little bit slower, but still, the outcome is very dangerous. Glad you're alright. When my ex-husband tried smothering me and killing me, managed to finally get my feet up under him and literally launch him off the bed into a dresser. He tried saying his arms gave out during sex and he had just happened to fall with his whole body on top of me with a pillow over my face. Wasn't the first time he tried to kill me. Ex-husband also said he was going to change my brakes on my old car for me. He never did. He also drained the brake fluid out so it would look like an accident. Thankfully, everyone got out of my way when I was going 120 plus miles per hour down the Tennessee mountains on the way to Georgia because a cop pretty much cleared the way. A family that saw it happening and had stopped around where we did had even said they were scared for me because I couldn't slow down and had seen the look of pure horror on my face as them, the cop, and my current husband all watched my brake lights coming on but me not slowing down. Ex-husband didn't change the brakes. and when my current husband did, there was nothing but metal, no brake pads on it at all. Had no clue my ex had drained most of the brake fluid either, so it blew a small hole in the brake line. He also had canceled my car insurance, even though I was the main policy holder, hoping I'd get pulled over and arrested for it. Last year, wrecked an ATV that was not ours but another neighbor's that is horribly unbalanced. Managed to kick the ATV away from me as it was falling backwards to hit me. The handlebars only grazed my hip. My butt and hip were bruised for months. Was almost struck by lightning, and it scared me, my husband, and our old lady neighbor next door. Got way too wasted at one of my high school graduation parties without much tolerance. Ended up having to get 4 IVs. I don't remember much besides definitely thinking I was done for. Apparently I was yelling, "I don't want to die yet," over and over. Funnily enough, I can now drink near 2 times as much as I did then and be fine. At 15, when I tried to kill myself with all the pills I had at hand, mainly antidepressants, Dad found me, they pumped my stomach, woke up in the hospital and raged because I felt so glad when I'd fallen asleep. Lots of therapy later, and on the right track. I spent some time in South Africa at 18 to 19, got robbed and stabbed in the process. Nothing like a rusty knife sticking out from your chest. It wasn't that bad, but the moment I looked down and saw that knife, I was absolutely sure that was it. I don't fully trust my parents driving. There was a time where we had to drive up a lane, they go 70 miles per hour. For some reason they drove up the lane, missed a truck speeding our way, and they stood there. I was like, this is it then. How did it end? The truck driver did see us and swerved on the other lane, narrowly avoiding us. They're not supposed to drive there, but he was forced to, and he saved us. Mom had the disgusting habit of looking at you for a prolonged period of time while driving, and Dad is impatient, and I caught him missing lanes sometimes. I had this dream that felt real, went to sleep and woke up and proceeded to work the remaining days of the week, and come the weekend I took a trip up to the mountain. Spent the weekend up there, then headed back down the night before I had to return to work. I'd noted a dangerous part on the road on the way up, but didn't pay as much mind when I went back down. Lo and behold, I wasn't careful, and my car went over. I remember being in the car and bracing for impact as I saw the ground racing toward me due to my headlights. I was at peace and just repeatedly told myself I'll be okay, just brace. However, I knew the likelihood of my survival in all actuality was low, and I was oddly at peace with it. Right as I'm about to hit the ground, everything outside the car disappeared, and it was all white, like I was staring at a bright white piece of paper out of every window. No impact, no sound, just silence of me sitting in a car which is paused mid-fall while there is white outside all around me. After a few moments of trying to process what was happening, I woke up and it was days earlier. The days and weekend were all a dream, but I remember that fall so vividly. I feel like I've had a dream like this as well. Maybe not to the length that you did, but it is a little disturbing and surreal when you come back to your real reality, if that even is a thing. My first pregnancy. I was so sick I couldn't function. I would vomit my own spit up. Every joint in my body ached from dehydration and 24/7 vomiting. Opening my eyes even proved to be too much at one point. I remember laying in the ER and every vein they poked to try to get fluids in me blew on contact. They ended up pumping me so full of Phenergan that I was basically sedated for a couple of days to help. I finished that pregnancy with a destroyed gallbladder, 65-pound weight loss, and a healthy baby. During the peak, though, I didn't see how I was going to survive, and I think there was a time I didn't want to survive either, because I was so miserable. I used to sit in my mother's room with the biggest knife we had, knowing I could end this, but I'd never see my brother or mother ever again for killing him. At this point in time, my mother had found yet another grown man to wait on a woman and kids. Regardless, I used to sit in their room once my mom was done being beaten. I'd sit and contemplate killing him so we didn't have to suffer anymore. One night I was there for hours. I went up to the bedside he was on and just stared at him. At this point, he just opened his eyes, and I was just too scared. I dropped the knife and it landed on my foot sideways. He flipped out because I was staring at him. I couldn't do it. Long story. My appendix had a leak that leaked infection into my abdomen and pretty much everything in the vicinity. It then burst, and I went to the hospital for what was supposed to be an in-and-out keyhole appendectomy. Yeah, 11-day stint in the hospital and 12 surgeries in a month later. The part that relates to this thread was after my second surgery, my infection markers were in extremely dangerous territory, and my body began shutting down on me. It felt like I was falling backwards into a body of water. That was the sweat streaming out of me, and the doctors and nurses above me trying to get drips in me and rush me back to theater to wash my internal organs and cavity out. That was a really weird feeling. If you've ever watched Trainspotting, that scene underwater combined with the OD scene is the best way to describe that feeling. When I was 21, I just came back from a long backpacking tour abroad. I met my friends and we dunked each other underwater several times in a row. It was a stupid game of play fighting. We always played in the lake. I somehow breathed in water and started making weird noises. Couldn't breathe and panicked. They didn't realize and one of them dunked me again. I thought, this is it. I survived the big world out there and I'm gonna die in my hometown 10 meters away from the riverbank. One of my friends noticed and pulled me on her floaty and told everyone to stop. I lie there until I calmed down, and then I left the water and lie on the grass without talking for the rest of the day. I was in proper shock and couldn't put my head underwater while swimming for a couple of years without panicking and breathing in water again. I forced myself to practice swimming and diving, and today I have no issues anymore. My friends never realized how much damage was done that afternoon, and I never told them. Look, I'm all for good surprises and a fun time with friends, but depending on conditions and circumstance of your body, there should probably be some, prep or tease for things like that. Glad you're okay, but that's a rough one. Sorry. About 7 or 8 years ago, I was playing soccer with my niece and nephew. Keep in mind, they were about 9 and 7 years old, so it wasn't a very intense match. Just kicking the ball around, running and laughing. Well, my heart decided it was time to F my ass up. My heart felt like it was racing and bouncing off the walls in my chest. It was beating hard, fast, and I could feel it in my throat. Now, I'd like to preface this by saying that this had already happened to me before, but not nearly as intense or as drawn out. Usually it would last a few seconds and go away. This time it felt like a bat out of hell was determined to fight its way out of me. Anyhoosers, at this point, I was trying to calm myself down. I tried taking deep breaths and tried talking to myself. Well, that just made it worse. My arms started to go numb and my chest started to hurt. I told my niece to go get her grandma because I might need an ambulance. She was always mature, way beyond her years, so she understood and ran off. My mother, in the typical old-school Italian fashion, kept telling me, "You're fine, just breathe, it's nothing." Right. Usually I'm extremely calm, never get angry, very patient. But at this moment, I looked at her dead in the eyes and said, "I think I'm having a heart attack. Call an effing ambulance right now." Now, at this point, my heart was pumping blood so quickly that it was all going to my brain. So I started feeling dizzy and like I was going to pass out. It was at this point that I thought to myself, oh shit, this is it. I'm dying. I'm about to die. And let me tell you, I was at peace with it. It was such a weird sensation, like I accepted it and it was okay. I've always been afraid of death and dying, but at that moment I feel like, okay, I'm ready. Let's go. So, spoiler alert, I didn't die, lol. I was rushed to the hospital where my heart rate was clocked at 190 to 210 beats per minute. I was diagnosed with a tachycardia and arrhythmia. Yay, super fun. No more coffee for me. I had acute pancreatitis and an infected gallbladder. I now know what it feels like to be stabbed because that's the feeling you get when your body is at its limit. By the time I got to the ER, I'd curled into a ball and could not relax from the pain. This was brought on by years of horrible reflux and horrible abdomen pain. All of the doctors told me to take Zantac or Pepcid or Tums and suck it up. F them. I lost my gallbladder and a great deal of health because of them. Imagine looking at any food, even rice, and tearing up because of the chance it could cause immense pain. That, and maybe the numerous times as a kid I've been kicked or trampled by horses. The one time I had to go out in the dark and feed the horses while home alone, and a hay bale I pulled fell on top of me, sucking on eucalyptus leaves as a kid. My maternal grandmother used to feed us NyQuil when we were small kids, and my paternal grandparents told us we would come back pooping green. I also hate that my parents would leave us at my maternal grandmother's house, and there was never any food. Remember eating pedigree dog food that was bone and meatball shaped. I think I liked the meatball ones the best. Would literally grab a handful of stored outside and spend hours walking 7 acres because we rarely got to use the TV. Had a gun pointed at me once or twice and was oblivious to it. I was told later by friends that were with me. I didn't work my normal job site one time, and the day that I would have worked, there was an abduction. Ex-boyfriend ran a yield on green traffic light while I was a front passenger. Watched the little oncoming pickup truck hit me near full force. The effing idiot driving the truck was also texting. Lots of shit every day, every second.